you are. Did you come to swim in the ocean? Yes? Good. It's good for the health. It's refreshing, especially on days like today. Okay. Prabhupada told us one devotee, Shivananda, the original Shivananda, he went to Germany in the 60s. He said, a Vaishnava is a person who becomes very happy when they see two things: an opportunity, a nice place for swimming, and good prasad. So it's bona fide. So nice beach here, so you go swimming and then you take prasad. So we got both right here. You go over to a nice prasad and a nice place to swim. So Vaishnavas are always very happy here. Shivananda personally told me that. So he's there in Sandy Hill. He's been there for many, many years. North Carolina. I think Sandy Hill is North Carolina, right? Where the archives is. Why, thank you, Mr. Sound. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Oh, Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjano Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sri Radha Madhava ki Sri Radha Giridhari ki Jayom Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivraj Gajaja Shodhara Shishimar Zavangre Savai Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantara srimadbhagavatam Ki Samveda Bhakti Ki Jai Go Paremanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. You ever hear two people yelling at each other? You don't have to look at your mom, just I don't make it personal. Just say yes or no. Okay. So that's what we're reading about in this chapter. A whole bunch of people yelling at each other. This is the chapter of Daksha, curses Lord Shiva, and his followers started yelling at Daksha's followers, and Daksha's followers started yelling at Lord Shiva's followers. It got out of hand. It was a horrible situation. That's what we're reading about. So this is the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto. 2nd chapter, verse 34. So we can just stay on this one verse and purport today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jamadhyariyat Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavavrinda Ki Jai. So text 34. Tepi Vishvasrija Satram Sahasra Parivatsaran Samvidaya Maheshvasya Yatridhya Rishabho Harihi Tepi Vishvasrija Satram Sahasra Parivatsaran Samvidhaya Maheshvasa Yatridhya Rishabho Harihi Tepi Vishvasrija Satram Sahasra Parivatsaran Samvidaya Maheshvasa Yatridhya Rishabho Harihi. Please chant. Tepi Vishvasrija Satram Sahasra Parivatsaran Samvidaya Maheshvasa Yatridhya Rishabho Harihi. Devi Vishvasrija Satran Sahasra Parivatsaran Samvidaya Maheshvasa Yatridhya Rishabho Harihi. Devi Vishvasrija Satram Anyone else like to chime in? Initiated? First. Ladies like to chant? Devi Vishvasrija Satram Sahasra Parivatsaram Samvidaya Maheshvasa Yatridhya Rishabho Harihi. Devi Vishvasrija Satram Parivatsaram Samvidaya Maheshvasa Yatreja Rishubori. Are you a chanter? Okay. So word for word. Te, those, api, even, Vishwasrijaha, progenitors of the universal population. Satram, the sacrifice. Sahasra, 1,000. Parivatsaran, years. Samvidaya, performing. Maheshvasa, O Vidura, Yatra, in which. Idjaha, to be worshipped. Rishabha, the presiding deity of all demigods. Harihi, Hari. Okay, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The sage Maitreya continued, O Vidura, all the progenitors of the universal population thus executed a sacrifice for thousands of years. For sacrifice is the best way to worship the Supreme Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. Please repeat. The sage Maitreya continued, O Vidura, all the progenitors of the universal population thus executed a sacrifice for thousands of years. For sacrifice is the best way to worship the Supreme Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. Purport. It is clearly stated here that the stalwart, we need our editor for this one. You get back to us on when I finish the purport. The stalwart is quite an interesting word, what it specifically means. Stalwart personalities who generate the entire population of the world are interested in satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead by offering sacrifices. The Lord also says in the Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, 29th verse, Bhogdaram Jagnatapasam Sarvalokam. I'll have you quote that. I'll come back to you, okay? One may engage in performing sacrifices and severe austerities for perfection, but they are all meant to satisfy the Supreme Lord. In such activities, if such activities are performed for personal satisfaction, one is involved in pasanda, or atheism. But when they are performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, one is following the Vedic principle. All the assembled sages perform sacrifices for 1,000 years. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksulunminitam Denata Ismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nithananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Vancha Kalpataru Vascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patidanam Bhavanido Vaishnavi Namaha. I have your permission to try to say a few things? Badram Te. Okay, thank you. Now I feel okay. So stalwart. Why is that word used? What does stalwart mean? Okay, see, it's very specific without deviating. It not just means great, it just means stalwart. Okay. So, the sage Maitreya continued, O Vidura, all the progenitors of the universal population thus executed a sacrifice for thousands of years. For sacrifice is the best way to worship the Supreme Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. So I'd like to touch on 2 points in this morning's class. The first one is indicated by the verse which Bhakti Zak will now recite. Yes, this verse Prabhupada refers to in the Bhagavad Gita that Bhoktanam Jagdatapasam Sarvalokam Maheshram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Yajgatmam Shantam Richati. So this is also known as the peace formula, but it's explaining that stalwart personalities, pious people, all these great sages, religious people, they understand that the key to success is satisfying the Supreme Lord, and that is done by offering different sacrifices. And of course, different sacrifices are recommended. We know in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's a succession or explanation of many varieties of sacrifices according to your station in life. And we also know, according to the whatever yuga we find ourselves in. Now, what yuga are we in now? Yeah, there's no mistake in that one, right? There's a big sign everywhere. Kali Yuga, Kali, welcome. We're in Kali Yuga, so the sacrifice for Kali Yuga is Sankirtan Yajna, right? Now in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a reference to this because here are all the demigods gathered to perform this sacrifice. And in the Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, Krishna explains that in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna," sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. Okay, so and it's described here, there's a cycle and a relationship between human beings, the demigods, the whole universe. It's all interconnected. It's not separated. It's all very much just like a machine. You turn on a machine, like those fans. If they were, just like fans when they're turned on. You have a little motor there, and all these different things are working in tandem to get that thing to spin around. So in the same way, everything in this universe is actually connected to function together. So what's being described here is for prosperity and good fortune. And he even says here in this verse, liberation, to get out of the material world. There's a whole system in place how to do that. And that's by the performance of yajna, or sacrifice, to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because when Krishna is pleased, everyone is pleased. There's a nice example given in the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam. Do you know that one? Mulam. You know what the word mulam means? Mulam? Root. If you water the root, what happens? Damodar, you give me the silent treatment. What's going on here? I'm talking to you. Yes, okay, yes. When you water the root, all the parts of the tree are nourished. If you try to water the tree separately, ask Mukunda, he's probably made this experiment at the farm many times. Did it ever work? If you water the leaves separately, no, you have to water the root, right? In fact, in places where it's arid and dry, they have drip systems, right? Just little thing, little drip on the root, little bit, and everything looks nice and green and verdant. So by pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everyone is pleased. The demigods are pleased, human beings are pleased, all living entities are pleased, because Krishna is the, just like the root of existence. Another example is given. Something's going to happen in about a half hour, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on Santosh. What's going to happen in about 45 minutes and an hour? Prasad. So there's the other example given. If you feed the stomach, what happens? The whole body becomes nourished and happy and satisfied. Right? That's the system. Try something else, it doesn't work. Right? Is that in the Panchatantra or something? Where is that story taken from, about the Indriya, the senses? All the senses go on strike. They say, I'm not going to feed the stomach anymore. Look at that stomach. It's all those nice samosas from Mahabharat's offering on Tuesday, and rasgullas and this and that. We're going to get it all ourselves. Don't feed the stomach anymore. So that all the senses go on, the hands, the eyes, they all go on strike. And what happens after a few days? They feel very, very weak. And they can't function at all. Like that. So they have to give it to the stomach. And as soon as they feed the stomach, the whole body feels nourished and satisfied. So that's the system. That's the system. Now, before we go on to the next topic, someone may say, wait a second. We see in today's society people are very, very prosperous and happy and so on, and they're not worshiping the Supreme Lord at all. Right? There are many well-to-do atheists and agnostics. Right? And they don't even believe in God. In fact, they blaspheme the Supreme Lord. And so how's that possible? Well, it seems to go against what's being described here. It's really quiet out there. Okay, well, the reason is, one reason given is they're actually riding on their previous good karma. That's actually what's happening. They're riding on their previous good karma, and sooner or later, it's going to end. Just like the fan example, because it's hot, I'll keep using fan examples. When you turn off the fan, does the blade automatically stop? No, it goes for a little while, then it stops. So when we see prosperity and power and different opulences amongst impious people, they're using up whatever punya they had in the past. And sooner or later it will stop unless they create more. Another answer is given, what is the prosperity of the atheists? Just like many people, most people in the world, look to America, a land of, you can't even say milk and honey anymore, burgers and fries, Hare Krishna, but a land of prosperity, and everyone's thinking, oh, if I could be just like in America, right? Nice facilities and Sanskrit, like that, economics. But it so happens, statistically, America has the most miserable, frustrated, intoxicated, medicated population in the world. So what is our opulence? If people aren't even peaceful and happy, right, then they're always worried. My wife said she read an article yesterday about a man from Ireland who stayed in La Jolla, and someplace maybe like in Denver, then in New York City. And then he went back to Ireland. He wrote an article, something like 18 things wrong with America. Americans, not America, Americans. And all these different things about Americans, how different they are than Europeans or Irish and so on. And silly things like every time you introduce yourself from Ireland, they go, oh, I had a friend who was from Ireland, or my family's from Ireland. Or they always say, oh, you drink a lot, don't you? Right? The Irish are known to drink a lot. Some are. But more serious things are how people in this country are so on edge and so frustrated and so wound up and not even peaceful like that. They can't talk. They can't. So that was his observation. So the other point is how prosperous and happy and satisfied and successful are impious people. So that's an argument also. If you have any further questions, you can read Devamrita Swami's new book on happiness. This is a great analysis of this whole thing. The other point, which is extremely important, which ties into what we're reading about in this chapter, and which will continue into the next chapter, is the demigods here are making a huge mistake. They're making a huge mistake. And that mistake is they're performing all these activities for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, but they're offending the Lord's devotees. The Lord's greatest devotee, Lord Shiva. So that's a big problem. They don't really understand what it means to please the Supreme Lord. You cannot please the Supreme Lord outside of pleasing the Lord's devotees. So I just want to reference this one last verse. In fact, it's even just like it says in the purport here. If such activities are performed for personal satisfaction, one is involved in pasanda, or atheism. There's a verse here. I'm not saying the demigods are demons, but there's a demonic mentality where it says here, self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules and regulations. So the very first thing in pleasing the Supreme Lord is pleasing the Lord's devotees. Every morning there's 8 verses we recite at Mangal Artik. Okay? Jamal, do you know what the last one is or refers to? Yasya prasada bhagawatsaptaha. You know what that refers to? Okay. You have a lifeline. You can call on anyone you like to answer that question for you. Janardhan, do you know what that means? Yasya prasada bhagawatsaptaha. You can give me a loose translation. Okay, we got a little bit of studying to do, Prabhus. Mukunda. Yes. Right, so that's a reference there. In other words, if you want to please the Lord's devotees have to be pleased, like that. So they're making a big mistake here, thinking that independent, completely ignoring Lord Shiva, that they're actually going to satisfy the Supreme Lord. So some things are brewing here. And the next chapter goes in the fact they're performing more sacrifices, and that's when Sati wants to go, and Lord Shiva says, you better don't go, and then you know that expression, all hell breaks loose? That comes from that next chapter of the Bhagavatam. All hell breaks loose. It's a very, very serious situation. all have to do Vaishnav aparad. So whatever our sacrifices are, whatever our devotional service is, we have to be very, very attentive and careful that we're not offending the Vaishnavas, pleasing the Vaishnavas, pleasing the spiritual master. That's extremely important, because if one is not pleasing the devotees of the Lord, topmost is one's spiritual master, the spiritual master. What is the value of one's devotional service? That's a topic of discussion. A very serious topic of discussion. If one avoids the association devotees, doesn't like the association devotees, thinks they can be. What is that verse is in the purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita? One who thinks he become Krishna consciousness outside the association of devotees, he is living in a hallucination. Was that in the Bhagavatam? Living in a hallucination. You ever hallucinate? Like fever or something like that. Like that. You're from down under, maybe you got that. What's that fever? Dengue fever or something like that? That sounds like you from New Zealand. You got dengue fever, like that. So you don't know. You lose your mind and you see all kinds of things and you're feverish and just like that. Or one that may be intoxicated in a hallucination. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. Okay? That's a hallucination. I don't know what the etymology of that word is, hallucination, but it means it's not real. It's completely illusion. Phantasmagoria also. So, our devotional activities are all forms of sacrifice, right? Our daily life, one's sacrificing one's life for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, and that's done in many, many different ways of serving the Lord in the temple, outside the temple, and so on. But the regulator on that, you ever hear the motorcycle go by and it's really loud? You know what they did? They took the regulator off, right? Is that what that is? Sometimes, and all of a sudden it just makes all this noise. They're like waking everyone up in the neighborhood, and they go down the street and all the alarms on the cars go off. That's why they do it. So I'm the Supreme Personality of Grand Avenue, like that, whatever. The regulator, it controls it, makes it so it's not so loud. So what is the regulator in our devotional service is Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada, the pleasure of the spiritual master, the pleasure of the Vaishnavas. They are happy, everything is perfect. I'll finish with this because it's 8:24. Just hearing a nice lecture on the appearance day of Lord Balaram. And the devotee was saying Lord Balaram is, of course, the original guru. He teaches us how to please the Supreme Personality of God. And he gives us the spiritual strength we need to continue our devotional service. So how do we please Lord Balaram? It's actually by pleasing the Guru, because he's the Adi Guru. So by pleasing our spiritual master, that's how we get the mercy. He said, how do you get the mercy of Lord Balaram? That's the big one, because he's the Adi Guru. And you please your spiritual master, then somehow or other, all that spiritual strength you need will come your way. Gift wrapped. There you go. Pleasing the spiritual master, pleasing the Vaishnavas, and everything else becomes very, very easy. And if we don't please the spiritual master, we're not pleasing to the Vaishnavas, then all our activities become very, very difficult. You know, just like that verse, by remembering Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even the easiest thing becomes easy. If we don't remember, the easiest is difficult, and the most difficult thing becomes very, very easy. So that by pleasing the devotees, everything becomes easy. It's easy to get up in the morning. It's easy to stay awake in the morning. It's easy to come to the programs. It's easy to chant Hare Krishna. It's easy to do whatever your service is, inside or outside the temple, wherever it may be. It's all very easy if one is always in a pleasing mood to the Vaishnavas and trying to please one's spiritual master. And once we forget that, then it's uncharted waters. You ever hear that expression before? Uncharted waters? You ever heard that expression? How about you? Uncharted waters. Any nautical folks out there? Well, uncharted waters. That means there's no one's gone there and made a map of that area, so you're going and you don't know where you're going, right? Just like the old days here, sailing up and down the coast, right? Just like Cabrillo came in here in SanDiego, right here, and it was uncharted waters. He was going up the coast. Hey, SanDiego, check out the zoo, SeaWorld, see what's going on here. Right. It wasn't here then. But anyways, it's uncharted waters. You don't know where you're going to go because there's no map. There's no charter, no map. So it doesn't matter that you have your instruments and everything. There's no map. You have no idea where you are. You have no idea where you are. It's uncharted waters. So that's what happens if we lose that bearing on always making sure the spiritual master and the devotees are pleased with us. Like that. So we can end here, open it up for discussions on these 2 points. Balaram. Mm-hmm. I can comment on that. And maybe Prabhu, you can comment on that. And if there's well, my understanding or my comment on that would be is that the different spiritual masters have different levels of achieving what's described in that song. So take that into account. It doesn't automatically mean if we sing that, address our spiritual master, he may be on the topmost platform of, like you said, hair standing on it and so on. But you just go through each one of those verses, some sort of, as far as relieving the fire of this material existence, qualified spiritual master does it. How does he do it? He brings the bucket named Srila Prabhupada. I mean, they have that they have those qualities, and to some extent, So, I would say you are singing to your spiritual master, but you understand those verses go all the way up to the absolute platform, so they may not, like you say, hit the highest mark. But look at all those verses. How could it not refer to your spirit? Yasya prasada. What are you saying? If you don't please pleasing your spiritual master has no bearing in the success of your spiritual life. It doesn't make any sense at all. Are your spiritual masters nodding gladden when there's the kirtan, glorifying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He's nodding gladden when you take prasad, right? He is. So all of those are there, but to the extent they have the realization, and there's room for that all the way up to the top. That's my understanding. What's your understanding? Rank and file. Right. Yes, Ganga Mantri. Das Anudas. Also, I mean, there's a managerial thing, that thing that happened in Hawaii, where the devotees, they met with Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, we want to just follow you, but we don't want to follow the local GBC. We'll just follow you. So Prabhupada said, you want to just follow me? Prabhupada said, okay, my instruction to you is follow the local GBC. And they wouldn't do it. So, insincere. So Prabhupada told them, you want to make me happy, serve me? Then I'm telling you now, do what they say, follow them, and they wouldn't do it. So how can you do that? So it's a principle, basic principle. Love me, love my dog. It's just practical. Okay. One is always feeling oneself a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. And there's that verse of Adi Purana, Krishna tells Arjuna, one who says he's my devotee is not my devotee. But one who says he's a devotee of my devotee, that's him, that's the one, that's the Hare Krishna, that's the Vaishnava. Devotee of my devotee. Like that, so. One is always thinking, one always thinks to himself, what is the word? Unqualified to approach Krishna directly. One feels unqualified to approach the Prabhupada or the spiritual master. Always through the let me just go through the devotees. Let me go through the devotees. It's like in the spiritual world. No one runs up to Krishna how do you approach Krishna? Through his devotees, right? They're serving. You have the gopis and you have the manjaris and you have different rings of gopis. No one's thinking, I'm just going to go serve Krishna directly. It's always through another devotee, through another devotee, through another devotee. That's the proper etiquette and that's the proper mood. One never feels himself so qualified, I'm just going to show up, just join Krishna for lunch at Mother Yashoda's. Hey, I'm one of the devotees. I'm just going to show up. No, one never thinks that way. You go. And always pushing other devotees and always rendering service. So, very, very essential mood, which is unfortunately just the opposite of the mood in the material world. Like that guy who goes down the Grand Avenue with his motorcycle, right? I'm the one. So, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we can take that early morning break between class and breakfast, wondering where it is. Okay? All glories to Srila Prabhupada, srimadbhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.